Hey everybody, my name is Quinn the GM. Welcome back to the channel. We just got a ton of really interesting D&D news. We got essentially the entire lineup for 2023, in addition to news of the brand new edition of D&D called 1D&D. They also announced that they're going to release Unearthed Arcana monthly, essentially, revising things from the Player's Handbook and DMG and Monster Manual in order to get them ready for this new edition, and the first of those came out today. What I'm going to do today is break down what I think is most interesting and most cool from this new Unearthed Arcana, so be sure to stay tuned. Let me know in the comments what you find most interesting, and if you enjoy this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. So yeah, let's jump into all of this new and old material for D&D 1, or 1D&D. I said that wrong, but I'm going to roll with it. So the first thing that it really cements, and that I think is really cool, is the difference between a race and a background. These two things are about equally important nowadays, whereas in the initial version of 5th edition, the race seemed much more important than background. Background just gave you a couple skills, whereas races gave you ability scores, a ton of unique special abilities, and other things. So essentially, the background now gives you both your ability scores, some skills, a tool proficiency, which is universal to all backgrounds, which is quite cool, in addition to a feat, a first level feat, as specified in this Unearthed Arcana. This shows that feats are very much going to have levels to them. There will be more powerful and less powerful versions of them. And being able to select one based on your background, I think, is quite cool. We already saw that become official with the new Spelljammer books come out earlier this week that I'm still reading my way through. I'm really enjoying them so far. But I do like this very much distinct separation that they've come to now. Specifically now, races focus on your creature type, your size, your lifespan, and those same unique special abilities that made races so distinct in the first place. Going on to the human, which is a very standard race in D&D, that they've changed and made a fair bit more interesting. Rather than just getting the free feat at level 1 like Variant Human used to, and used to make it one of the best races in the game, the new human gets a bonus feat. They get skilled in addition to whatever other feat they choose from their background, which is quite cool. It still keeps that flavor of them being able to have one more feat than everybody else. Furthermore, they have a new trait called, I believe, Resourceful? Yes, Resourceful, which allows them to gain an inspiration dice every time they finish a long rest, which is just great. They can just give themselves advantage on a check at any point per long rest. It's good that they're leaning more into inspiration, as that's a part of 5e that I've found can be very overlooked at some tables and very focused on at others. It's good that it's getting kind of standardized more and more utilized in-game. Next up is the only new race in this, which is cool. It's good that they're adding a new race to the PHP. It's cool to see some new forms of player characters be able to appear. Ardlings are quite unique, and they're almost a flip-sided Tieflings. Or rather, I'd call Asmar the flip-sided Tieflings. This is kind of if the coin lands on its side, essentially, that's standing straight up in the air. The Ardling is quite unique, as it's a humanoid with the head of an animal. There are 3 different types, and they are connected to upper planes of some sort. Those types being Exalted, Heavenly, and Idyllic, each of which have unique lore for them and their tendencies based on whatever their heavenly ancestor or influence has been. Though it is stated that they can depart from these influences and have very much their own sense of morality or any idea of whatever they want to do with their lives. Mechanically, they get angelic flight, similarly to Asmar get, and they also get celestial legacies, which are quite interesting. They are able to essentially channel their magic that they are granted from their essentially divine influence based on their animal, and use that to cast a number of spells a certain number of times per day. Overall, I think this is quite an interesting race, though I'd like to see maybe more abilities that aren't focused on just giving people spells, and this is a theme for the entire UA here. I feel like more unique abilities would be cool in addition to perhaps giving people spells. Dragonborn are my favorite race in 5th edition, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed in how this turned out, especially as compared to Fizzbands. The Dragonborn has been standardized to a single stat block, no gem, metallic, or chromatic to be found here, and a lot of things have been downgraded from what they've been in Fizzbands or just tweaked in strange ways. All of those unique abilities of the Gem Dragonborn, of the Chromatic Dragonborn, of the Metallic Dragonborn have been completely negated. There's no secondary breath weapon for the Metallic, there's no damage immunity for the Chromatic, there's no flight and telepathy for the Gems. But rather, their breath weapon no longer scales damage-wise. It is a D10 at all times, but it is a D10 plus your character level damage. So I'm not exactly sure how that scales. It could be better, could be worse. I'll have to take a look at that later. But you still get a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which is much better than the Dragonborn in the Player's Handbook, in addition to having Dark Vision. So overall, it is a strict upgrade from the Player's Handbook, but I think a bit of a downgrade from that which is found in Fizzbands. It's nice to have dwarves back. They tend to get a lot less loves than elves do, so I'm really glad to see them here. And the main thing that I love is they have an ability called Stone Cunning, which they had initially in addition to giving that same knowledge that it did initially. They can also give themselves Tremor Sense as a bonus action, which is incredibly cool. It makes sense, though it only works if you're standing on stone. It really makes sense if they tend to mine or just be underground a lot more, and I really like that new ability. It's really flavorful, and I think it's really unique. And it's not a spell, which I really appreciate. Elves are also here, also not really worth talking about. They're pretty similar to the other elves we saw in Monsters of the Multiverse, with the only difference being that now elven lineages replace the subraces. Each of these elven lineages give you new spells, essentially cantrip, a first level spell and a second level spell at first level, third level, and fifth level, respectively. And overall, I think the elf stat block is about the same as those that we've seen before. Other than some different racial abilities for the subraces, gnomes are pretty much exactly the same, though without their specific locked ability score increases. Halflings are also about the same. They get luck, they get halfling nimbleness, they get brave, and they get naturally stealthy, same as always. There also aren't any subraces for halflings, which is quite strange as compared to what was in the Player's Handbook, because stout and I forget the other Lightfoot halflings were quite different, and it's interesting to see neither of those abilities really make their way over, other than the stealthy abilities of the Lightfoot halflings. Though I suppose that fits more in line with the overall Hobbit image of a halfling. The Orc is here, officially being upgraded to a Player's Handbook race, which I am very proud of it for doing. They get essentially very similar abilities to what they had in Monsters of the Multiverse, because this is the only race that was in Monsters of the Multiverse and is now reappearing in this UA. So I believe there are very few differences there. Adrenaline Rush was the name of a new ability there that I really liked, as you are rushing towards an enemy with your movement, and I really enjoy the just name there, being Adrenaline Rush, being used in 2 cents. And furthermore, they've gained the ability of their half-orc brethren to not drop to 0 HP with Relentless Endurance once per day, and instead drop to 1. I also really like that they have flavor notes for orcs of many worlds, how they may vary from place to place, and this is the case for all races present in this Unearthed Arcana, and I really like that. Tiefling have really gotten mixed up here, and I am a huge fan of this. Tiefling are now able to represent any of the 3 lower planes, essentially. You're able to represent the abyssal planes, the chthonic planes, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm probably not, and the infernal planes. And you get different abilities based on each of these. You gain a different damage resistance as well as different spells from them, and it really allows you to flavor your Tiefling in new and unique ways to you. And it could explain multiple colors of Tiefling, because I know in the original Player's Handbook it was just red and shades of human typically. But now you can get your blue, your green, your anything Tieflings, and I really like that they've folded that into the edition as a whole and given us just more variation generally. They also go through a number of backgrounds, each of which are example backgrounds. This leads further into the customization theme that 1D&D seems to be leaning towards, particularly because these are all essentially you're able to swap whatever you want for whatever you want, and it's super cool. I really enjoy this, but each background here has a suggested feat to come with it as well, which I really enjoy. And I think it's a really good mix of things. I think the backgrounds that they've chosen to update are ones that are very much classics from the Player's Handbook, and I'm excited to see new versions of reimagined here. We've also got some feats, both new and old. There are some really cool ones that I'm really excited to share with you. Alert has gotten a fantastic update. Instead of just a flat +5 now, it is your proficiency bonus added to your initiative modifier. And immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with one of your allies, which I think is super cool. I had a subclass I made that did a very similar thing, the Lawman Rogue. And it's great to see something official begin to take that design direction as well. It's great to kind of give a good initiative to an ally who might be slower if you're in an escape situation or something like that. There's also a new feat called Crafter. It's really interesting. It allows you to interact more with shop merchants. You're able to get discounts on non-magical equipment, about 20% on that. You can craft things faster, which might indicate better crafting mechanics in 1D&D, which, God, I'm hoping for. That would be fantastic. I really like that as well, and I think it's cool to see new feats in this. They made Lucky even more broken in D&D 1. This is incredible. The luck feat used to be you get 3 luck points and you can use them to give yourself advantage on things, any long rest, essentially. Now you get a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, so a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 6. And I'm going to read this next part verbatim to make sure I am getting it all correctly. Advantage. Immediately after you roll a d20 for a d20 test, so just roll a d20 in general, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the roll, so same as before. In addition to disadvantage. When a creature rolls 1 d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend a luck point to impose disadvantage on that roll. So luck gets even more uses, and it is even more powerful. It is a little ridiculous. I would still not be allowing that in my game, no matter what. There's also a new feat called Musician, which I really like, as somebody who did a lot of music back when I was in school. You can also inspire people with a song via short or long rest. It's really cool. You can give inspiration to your allies, which is, again, being used more in this Unearthed Arcana, which I really like. The biggest feat update of all in this Unearthed Arcana is Tavern Brawler. It gets 4 whole abilities, all of which I love and are incredibly flavorful. Enhanced Unarmed Strike gives you a d4 for your fists, and you can add your strength to that damage. Damage rerolls is whenever you roll a 1 on your Unarmed Strike damage die, you can re-roll it. That's great for monks, even if you don't want to have that d4 normally and you want to use your dex. That's quite cool. You can shove people as a part of your attack action, which is quite fun, as normally shove is its own thing. And furthermore, you can use furniture as weapons, with larger furniture that is medium being used as a great club and smaller furniture being used as an other type of club. I really love this new feat, and I think it's a huge upgrade as to what we had before in terms of the rather uninspiring Tavern Brawler feat from 5th edition. There's also a rules glossary with a number of changes for new 1 D&D. D20 tests are a new thing. They cover essentially attack rolls, ability checks, saving throws. That is a D20 test, all of them. It's a broader term for all of them. Particularly now, rolling a 20 is a crit no matter what, they say. Rolling a 20 is a success, albeit they do give the caveat that it cannot break the limitations of a check. You cannot overall break the laws of physics with this, which is good to include, though I'm still not sure how I feel about every crit being an automatic success. Furthermore, critical hits are further expounded upon in this section, and I think that it is good to have these rules refreshed and renewed for the new edition. There are also several updates to conditions here. Grappled and incapacitated are the first couple. These are essentially changed a bit in the way that they phrase incapacitated. It makes it seem like rather than surprised, incapacitated is going to be what you are when you're surprised at the start of combat, particularly because it says, surprised, if you're incapacitated when you roll initiative, you have disadvantage on the roll. I think that could come to effect for nighttime ambushes or anything similar. There's also a new condition called Slowed. It's like the slow spell, essentially, just on you as a condition, which I really like. It makes it more broadly applicable, and that's one of my favorite spells in 5th edition. Specifically, it makes your speed halved, that's in fewer words, in addition to giving attack rolls against you advantage and giving you disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. It's cool to see some spells become kind of transformed into conditions that could allow for more unique spells down the line that utilize these conditions. And the last part of this is a spell list guide, essentially breaking spells into 3 unique groups, which are quite interesting. We've not seen anything like this in 5th edition before, and I really enjoy it. It reminds me of Pathfinder 2nd edition. Spells are classified into arcane spells, divine spells, and primal spells. Assumedly, these will each qualify to a class. These will be wizards will get arcane spells, clerics will get divine spells, druids will get primal spells. And it's really interesting to see what fits into each category and how these categories might shape things moving into 5th edition, or not 5th edition, D&D 1. I think that one of the new UAs we can expect, probably fairly soon, maybe after some classes, would be spells, in that I think these spells should be pretty heavily reworked based on the number of conditions that they seem to be adding in addition to these new categories. I'd love to see what kind of new spells get added to D&D 1 as well. So, what did you think of this UA? It is a massive document. It is 20-some pages. I am a big fan of a lot of it. Some things I'm a little disappointed on, but overall I think it is a quite good indication for where this 1 D&D is heading, and I'm greatly looking forward to the new slew of UA options we're going to get in the near future. If you enjoyed this, be sure to leave a like, comment, let me know what you think. And yeah, be sure to subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all soon.